Hello, Cornerstone Church. Pastor Phil here on day 4 of our 21 days of prayer and fasting. This has been good from what I can understand from comments I've received, and just as I think through these things and pray through the different themes. And anytime we start the year with focused prayer, it's a blessing. And I pray that it's been a blessing for all of you as well, and that it continues to be. The theme for day 4 is trust the one who said, I am the bread of life. The scripture that Dana uses, Dana Olson, the author, is John 6:35 through 40. And additional readings are Exodus 16, Psalm 78, and 1 Corinthians 11:23 through 26. As usual, I encourage you to go through all of the readings prayerfully, meditatively, and see how the Lord speaks to your heart. But I was struck in this day with the theme of satisfaction. When we think about Jesus, the thing that he focuses on is Jesus, where he says, I am the bread of life. When we think about bread, bread is a metaphor for food. It's a major staple of the first century diet, and so as such, it stands for food. And there's two ways of looking at food. I've shared this before, and I'm sure you've heard this expression. Some people eat to live, and some people live to eat. In other words, some people just look at food as a necessity. It's something that they need to sustain their bodies. They only eat because if they didn't eat, they would pass out or they would fall over or whatever it is. And the other group lives to eat. That means they love food, and not necessarily that they're obese or anything like that, but that they just enjoy eating a good meal. I definitely fall into the latter category. And when I think about bread in many ways for me is my downfall. That's my Achilles heel. I was raised on bread. I still to this day I can't eat a meal. I mean, I can. I've weaned myself off of it, but I am most happy at mealtimes when I have bread in my hands, especially when it's good bread. There's nothing better than that. And I think in some way that's the image that Jesus was shooting for when he spoke about himself being the bread of life. Not just something that sustains us, and yes, definitely, he is the only thing that can sustain us, but more than that, something that satisfies us, that he would be the thing that we feed on and then say, oh man, that was great. Just think of whatever your favorite meal is, and the feeling that you have when you have it done well, when you have your favorite meal done well, and you just eat it, and with every mouthful you say, oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. And just how enjoyable that is. I think that is the emotion that Jesus is trying to evoke here when he says, I am the bread of life. Something that satisfies us. And I thought about a line in a book I read by John Piper. And the book was the Dangerous Duty of Delight. And it focused on the scriptures that say, delight yourself in the Lord. And the idea that we are supposed to delight in God. God is supposed to be our greatest joy. And in that book, he says, God is most glorified in me when I am most satisfied in him. Think about that. Meditate on that. That's an amazing concept. When we are satisfied in the Lord, then God is most glorified in us. And conversely, Satan's biggest attack is always to make us unsatisfied in God, to put other things before our eyes, to tempt us. In the Garden of Eden, it was the fruit from the tree that they weren't supposed to eat. And he tempted them with this idea that you can be so much more than you are. If you only eat this fruit, then you will be God. You won't have to be subject to God. You will be God. And what he was doing was trying to make them unsatisfied with their relationship to God. unsatisfied with their place in surrender and submission to God. And that has been his attack from that day forward. In all of God's people, that is his attack, to get us to be unsatisfied with God and the things that God has for us. And so today, as we meditate on this scripture, I am the bread of life, think about being satisfied in God. Think about God being our greatest satisfaction and the thing that just sets our hearts on fire. And when God is that thing in our lives, then we will bring him glory like no other way. We will bring him the greatest glory that we can when everything within us says, yes, God, I want you. I love you. I am so enamored by everything that you do. I am just enraptured. I'm just straining to think of words that communicate the depth of this feeling. But when we have that level of satisfaction in our hearts, God is glorified. And I believe that that's what Jesus is saying when he says, I am the bread of life. Be satisfied in me. Feed on me. Let me sustain you in every way. And that's the prayer that Dana prays about as well. So you can look at all the different things that he says about that, but really pray about this idea of being satisfied in God. God bless you. Have a wonderful day serving Jesus.